Yo, what's up? It's Baker from Hauntcast, and this is a continuation of my Well tutorial, although it could be a completely separate tutorial altogether, which it pretty much is. So in this tutorial, what I'm doing is creating the mechanism that will raise my swamp creature out of the well, so it kind of peeks up out of the well and then kind of disappears back into the well, nice and slow, very creepy like. Anyway, so what we're using is a 10-inch stroke linear actuator with a pico volt controller and a whole bunch of other shit. Why don't we get to it?
Hauntcast, radio for haunters and Halloween fanatics. Oozing with haunt news, reviews, how-tos, interviews.
Hauntcast.
Subscribe now.
First off, we need a 10-inch linear actuator with a 12-volt, 10-amp power supply. We need linear actuator mounting brackets, the heavy-duty type. We need 2 of those. We need 1-inch bolts times 8, nuts times 8, washers times 16. 3-inch long by 3-inch diameter bolt without the head, a 3/8-inch lock nut, 2-inch long by 1/4-inch bolt times 4, nuts times 4, and washers times 8. We need a 15-inch by 12-inch by 3/4-inch plywood piece or board, 8-inch scrap piece of 2x4, pico volt prop controller, great stuff foam, the window and door blue can, Gorilla Glue, a heavy-duty hot knife, and an electric carving knife. I had a piece of particle board lying around, so I cut it to 15 inches long. I drew lines diagonally from corner to corner across the board to locate the center. I then drilled holes and mounted the brackets. After the brackets were attached, I used a can of leak seal and sprayed the top and bottom of the board, covering every nook and cranny. As this is particle board, it needs to stand up to the weather. Taking the 8-inch scrap of 2x4, we screwed it into the board from underneath. Using a 3/8-inch spade bit, I drilled a hole clear through the board so the bolt could go straight through. I then slid the split ring hanger over the linear actuator and then fastened it to the bolt. I had a spare piece of PVC board lying around, you can also use wood, that I cut to size and mounted it to the bracket using the bolts. Now, this next step won't be necessary if you're using a hollow body form, but I am not. Mine is completely filled with foam. So I used an electric carving knife, and yes, the one that you use for carving turkey or ham, to make a valley so the linear actuator could fit inside the body. I had to remove considerably more foam from the area of the head so that the top piece of the mounting bracket could fit inside. I then used Gorilla Glue to attach the top of the mounting bracket to the inner skull, and then use great stuff foam to fill in the gaps. To control the linear actuator, I picked up a pico volt. To record the animation, just hold the top red button down until the middle LED flashes several times. Then let go of the red button, turn the potentiometer wheel on the top left of the device to make the linear actuator extend. The further to the left you turn the wheel, the faster it will extend. When it reached the maximum height, it will stop. I then paused for a few seconds and then turned the wheel to the right to contract the actuator. When the actuator contracts fully, turn the wheel to the middle so you can see the little white dot directly in the middle of the wheel. I then waited for about 20 seconds and then tapped the red button in the right corner. This will end the recording. The wiring on this couldn't be any simpler. All you need to do is take the red wire from the linear actuator and plug it into the motor plus terminal. Take the black, plug it into the minus. And for the trigger, if you're using a step mat or a push button trigger, you plug it into the 1 and the minus on the left in the trigger terminal. Now, what I did is just used a little jumper because I want this thing to go off all night long. So if you use a little piece of wire or one of these little jumpers, this will cause the device to trigger constantly. That's why I added the 20-second delay on the end of my animation so it would pause and then fire again 20 seconds later. If you want continuous all access to all of my upcoming video tutorials, product reviews, and behind the scenes at the Village Mire, where I expose all of my tips and tricks of my haunt, then continue to back us here on Patreon and encourage a friend to do as well. Thank you for your support, and stay scary, my fiends.